G'day viewers, my name's Graeme Stevenson and I'd like to invite you to come on a journey of creativity and learning and adventure through the series Colour in Your Life. There's an artist in every family throughout the world, and lots of times there's an artist deep down inside all of us as well. So grab your kids, your brothers, your sisters, your aunties, uncles and mums and dads and come and see how some of the best artists in Australia do what they do. G'day viewers, well we're back in Melbourne today and we're filming one of Australia's premier artists, a gentleman called Mr. David Taylor. But with me at the moment is Luke Senior. Now Luke owns a number of art stores throughout the Melbourne area, and without a doubt the stores that he's got are just absolutely magnificent. But part of the reason we've come down here today as well is because of a fantastic paint company that you work with, Daniel Smith.
Yes.
And we've actually come down here to work with David and see him actually use the Daniel Smith products. These are fantastic, aren't they, mate? I mean, I've got a colour chart here that Daniel Smith actually makes, and I think when you look at what David does today, he really is the sort of the master of the masters. He's actually taught a lot of the leading watercolour artists in this country over the years. Has had a huge history. And Luke is really very much a part and parcel of what Colour in Your Life is doing today, and that's really supporting creativity and letting people know about fantastic companies like Daniel Smith and of course Senior's Art Supplies, and obviously going through what David's going to do as well today. But it's fantastic to be down here again, mate. We can't thank you enough.
This product for us has been truly amazing. We've been selling art materials for over 40 years, all the leading watercolours on the market.
Yep.
And in 18 months, Daniel Smith's really taken over for us.
It's incredible,
it's been amazing. It's all the top artists gravitating to it.
Yeah.
And it's been truly amazing.
The intensity of the pigment, and I think the integrity of the colour as well is just quite amazing of what they do.
But all the unique colours they make.
Yeah, and they're fascinating, aren't they? But we're going to go and spend the day with David today and watch how he produces one of his magnificent masterpieces. This man really is one of the masters of the masters. And we'll go upstairs, but thank you so much for having us down again. As I said, if it's not for people like Luke and his company, Senior's Arts, the chances to get people like David Taylor, it's impossible for us to do. But because Luke has said, yeah, let's go and do this, we're going to be able to go upstairs and watch what he does. So
look forward to seeing it.
It'd be fantastic. So let's go upstairs and see what David's doing. Okay guys, well here we are upstairs at Senior's and I am with one of the premier watercolour artists of the world, Mr. David Taylor. David, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thanks, Graeme.
Absolute pleasure. David has an extensive history in practicing watercolour art. He has taught an untold amount of people over the years, haven't you?
Sure I have.
Of 40 odd years. You've basically been teaching watercolours.
It makes me sound old. I think I'm the old man of watercolour.
But your history, I mean, the amount of awards that you've actually received on a global basis, the books that you've written, you do art tours, art teaching tours all over the world as well. And these days you're very much involved in China as well. You've received awards from Sichuan, the Sichuan exhibition, and you're also one of the premier judges for watercolours in the world as well these days. So tell me a little bit about your history and where you started with it all.
My history in watercolour goes back quite a number of years. I started in '68, getting quite serious about it, but my background was in etching, mainly because people wanted me to have a career.
Sure.
And I found that was particularly helpful in the skills of the old trade school. It's been a very important step in my career of using hand skills and like liner cutting, etching, hand engraving, and finally doing colour reproduction. So learning so much about colour has been a great help to me. And over the years, I wanted to study and develop my techniques of painting, because that was always a love of mine.
Obviously it's brought to where, you know, one of the most famous watercolour artists in the world, basically.
Well, I think that a lot of fame comes to people unknown.
Yeah.
And, you know, I never believed that you should always go out chasing things. If you were passionate about something, then it was really important to portray that and be intuitive enough to let somebody see that it was going to all work in the right way, not pushing it too hard. You know?
Sure. Okay, Dave, fantastic history of who you are, but I think what the audience wants to see is how a master watercolour artist does what you do. So I'm going to step out of camera, mainly because there's a lot going on with what David does. It's a reasonably big piece as well, and we're going to let David do what he does, and we'll go along for the ride. So let's go and see what you do.
Let's get into it.
Great stuff.
Yes, great.
All right, Dave, the master begins. Where do you start?
Well, I've got a subject here that I must share with you all. It's very important when I'm coming back from my trips to bring back something of a memory to actually put into action on a big sheet of paper. And here it is, a subject of Cornwall in Polperro. Here's a lovely misty scene, and I want to try and convey that atmosphere to you. And I think it's going to be a jumping experience.
Yes, I mean...
so, you know, it's very important.
For the folks out there, David gets very excited and jumps a lot when he works, so it'll be interesting. But you've already actually drawn this out as well, so there was obviously a little bit of time taking to put the drawing down. You've got to be a skilled draftsman at the best of times, but from there, where do you take it from now?
Well, what I want to try and achieve from doing this subject is to try and capture the essence, the mystery, the poetic part of the painting, and create that initial atmosphere. Right, here we go. The towel.
That's your security blanket, is it?
This is my security blanket, and very important part of my painting.
Yep.
Because every now and then I want to actually clean my brushes, get the right amount of pigment on the brush. It's very useful.
Okay.
Watercolour is so different in medium to paint. It's got so many inherent qualities that are magical. I remember a long time ago when I tipped a bucket of water on something I didn't like, and went back 2 hours later and it's fantastic.
It looks fabulous.
You know, and I jumped. Unbelievable.
Hence the beginning of the skip.
I think maybe that's where it came in. People say, where did you get that skip? But look, really, I think if you're enjoying something and something works, you got to be excited. And I've never stopped being excited about watercolour because it's just so challenging, so different, so enlightening. And I don't worry about mistakes. If you make a mistake, I always say make a good one. But if you're feeling confident about your painting, if you're feeling confident, it turns out a confident painting. If you're feeling a little bit hesitant, a bit more tense or nervous or something, that's going to happen. So here I'm just in the throes of getting excited about this subject, wanting to show you how to use this lovely arch paper and these Daniel Smith materials and do it the best I can. So here we go.
All right, the exciting part.
So I'm mixing. I won't tell you all the mixes because it takes longer than the painting, but some of the colours I'm using here are very natural pigments like ultramarines and cobalts and magentas. So I'm starting off with a nice sky wash. Very little sky in the picture, and I'm using more sienna here and letting the colour just go in very lightly. Big brush and lots of action. So as I'm working down that sheet of paper, it's almost, you probably would hardly see that, but it's just a very pale sienna. You get a very interesting message from painting. Mm-hmm. You know, as we paint, what you find is that the paper's always having this battle with you. I always say this to students. it's having this battle. It's saying, I've got you beaten.
Yeah.
But in actual fact, I think it's more like if you let it, it might do that. But if you are aware and say, oh no, you haven't, you're going to get there. So I'm working down the sheet of paper.
Yeah.
The reason I haven't wet it a lot is that because I want this to dry and I want this to work fairly quickly. If I work slow, all these washes wouldn't have the flow that they should have. So it's really important to get that flowing.
From where I'm sitting in the room, David,
Yeah.
you've got, I'm watching you paint this picture through the mirror. And you obviously developed this for the students so that they can actually see what you're doing at the same time.
Yeah, that's right. It's great to have this opportunity to use this mirror behind me to get the benefit of it, and also to use it for teaching benefits for students. So it's great. Yeah, it's great that way. I'm using a fairly flat brush when I'm doing this, when I'm putting these washes on.
So these are the Escoda brushes that you've got?
This little fellow is a little flat brush from Russia. I've got a lot of brushes. I do use Escoda brushes. I use the Neef brushes, David Taylor Neef brushes, Escoda brushes, and all sorts of brushes, and they all have their own benefits. They're wonderful to use, so terrific.
I think you've made it in the art world when you go to an art shop and you pick up a paintbrush and it's got your name on it. Well, you know, I don't like talking about brushes that I don't like, you know, and I love these brushes. Brushes are kind of really a very important part of an artist's kit. Looking at your work, it's obviously been an absolutely fascinating journey for you as a man anyway, going to all these places across the world and then being able to influence other people's lives as well.
Well, one of the most wonderful experiences is being able to go to the wonderful places in the world, seeing what other people are doing and sharing that experience. And like your program is such a wonderful program to share all this across the globe.
Yes.
The media and internet and everything else has given an opportunity for so much to happen. It's just brilliant. I get so much out of my painting that I have to put something back. And this is my way of doing it, sharing it with other people. In terms of like when I'm drawing here, I'm just using a dry brush method, just allowing the brush to break on the surface and create these little broken passages.
Yeah. And you're also in a Russian book on the world's most famous watercolour artists with Joseph Zbukvic, Robert Wade, and also Alvaro Castanet. So it's an incredible accolade to think that the Russians have produced this book, and we've got 4 artists from Australia and you're one of them.
I think it was terrific to actually see the way the artists actually went about producing that book. It was clever because they actually asked personal questions about the processes of painters, how they went about what they were doing, and I was very impressed with that.
So how do you find the Daniel Smith colours in presenting a picture like this? I mean, you know, there's obviously other brands out there. How come you prefer Daniel Smith?
Daniel Smith, when I first used them, it took me a little while to get used to the idea of what they were doing. But I think one of the things that was interesting to me was seeing what they did when they were actually integrating on the paper.
Yeah.
One of the features of it was that they granulate, the colours granulate. You get this granulating effect.
Yeah.
And, you know, I think that's one of its benefits. I'm getting a bit excited here.
Well, I can see you start to jump around there.
Yeah, I love jumping.
So with your colours as you're coming down now, I can see that they're starting to get a little darker in their tonal factor.
Yes, yeah. There's quite a number of strengths and shadows to put in here. If you've got something that looks out of balance or your actual drawing is not right, well, if something's structurally not right, you look at it back in reverse and you can see it more readily. Like you get used to looking at something the same way around. I think it's really important to recognise that when we paint something, we're always getting used to looking at it in a certain way. So when I'm doing the boats, I love the boats. I mean, just the boats are terrific subjects. The rough paper's so forgiving, like as I say, you can allow the texture of the paper to work so well. Putting these bright colours in, lovely. They're just in position. They're not actually representative of anything, just the position of that bright colour in there, position of bright reds and positions of these other colours in here. There's lots of light and darks, and the darks give it the contrast. I probably will be putting another glaze across this later.
How many glazes can you effectively put over watercolour?
That's an interesting question, Graeme. I think if they're thin washes, you can put a lots.
Yeah.
If they're thick, heavy washes, you're really governed by maybe not too many. But if they're thin washes, you can layer the painting quite well.
But I notice as well that you're not pushing the brush into the extent that you're losing the effect of the paper coming through as well.
Yeah, I want the paper, the texture. You notice I'm getting a lot of texture by dragging the brush.
Yes.
It's not wet in every area of the painting. So when I'm painting this, like I'm dragging it to get texture, which is, that's why I'm using rough paper, because the texture is so important. We forget that we can use colour almost straight out of the tube in watercolour. There's been a bit of an old-fashioned theory that, you can never use colour strong, but boy, like this bright red there, that red is a Daniel Smith red. It's called organic vermilion.
Yes.
Very bright, intense red. Beautiful. It just goes, like if I want a warm colour in here, like it goes in there, boom.
Boom, there it is.
And you can work your dark colours around it, but when I'm working dark colour around that, I'm using it pretty much full strength. And, when you're doing that, you're getting all that energy of colour, energy of excitement in here. So you can see what I'm getting at. Oh, here we go. The glazing in the painting, the exciting part of getting towards the latter end of the painting. Always interesting, always interesting. Building up the depth of the painting, the light, middle, darks, some more values going in. Great.
Okay, that's how you just spraying the whole thing.
Spraying this to let the paint become. I don't want a hard edge through that.
Yeah.
I want to keep the edge a little bit, but I've got to deepen the colour in here. So when I'm painting in here, if the colour, when it goes on, it goes on too sharp, you've got to keep the paint flowing. So the edge can't be too sharp when you're doing it. And then, you see already, wow. And I'm using a colour, which is a lovely Daniel Smith colour actually, called Moon Glow.
Moon Glow.
Moon Glow. They got wonderful names of these colours, but it's a very, very exciting colour, very natural sort of colour. And here, it's really, the washes I'm putting on aren't really what I call heavy.
Yeah.
They're fairly subtle. People, like we talked about glazes before, and you were saying how many glazes can you put on? Well, I'm only putting on just a few light glazes. These are not heavy glazes, but it makes a huge difference to the way in which this appears.
Yes.
Light is reflected when you work with colour. You get reflected light, bouncing light in a painting. And getting quite excited.
Starting to jump again.
And then I can sort of say, well, that little bit, there's a bit of warm colour on the front of that building, see? And I'm not using a heavy colour when I'm doing it. But that's not white, you see. I've got to mix on the paper here. I'm going to make this quite strong. Oh, that's a bit strong. Whew. But nothing like a good scare in here. Good. Now, like in here, in terms of that. Also, I might mention that when you're trying to paint masts and doing all those things, really it's, if you go very slowly at it, the brush wobbles. But if you do it quick,
yes,
it's straight.
There you go.
So always trust it. Do it in the air first, and then you've got it. So I'm nearly there. I mean, I could keep on going, and that wouldn't be the right way to approach that. It's really important to get the bones and the essence of the colour and the shape. Allow it to sing a little bit. Right, here goes. Now you only get one go at that. Organic vermilion signature. Always paint your signature like you paint it for you. Don't want the signature to be the main focus of the painting. There it is. Right, here we go.
Grand unveiling.
There you go.
Okay, David, fantastic day.
Thank you, Graeme. So great working with you. It's terrific.
Thank you so much, mate. And as you can see, guys, the amazing work of David Taylor is just, it's mind-boggling, it really is. David, being the man that he is, travels the world a great deal. Now, he's got painting workshops coming up with Travel Right, right across the globe. So if you want to go in and find out what Dave's doing, you can either go to your website, which is
davidtaylorartist.com.
Okay, we can go to the Travel Right website as well and see all of the things that they've got going on. Plus, David being the man that he is, many DVDs out, so if you really want to learn more about this amazing master artist, you can go in there and have a look at those DVDs. Dave's also got books out as well. This is one of his books, Solving the Mystery of Watercolour with David Taylor.
You have to get that through Amazon.com because it's now out of print, so it's a valuable book to get hold of.
Absolutely, and beautiful inside as well. And also, David has his own brushes out with Escoda and with Neff as well. So you can go, these are actually really interesting brushes, these guys as well. They're all sort of clear, they look pretty cool.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
They're very nice brushes.
It's fantastic. We'd also like to thank Luke Senior as well for getting us down here to be with David. Luke's a fantastic guy and really supports the arts, everybody in the Melbourne community, and Daniel Smith. If it wasn't for their paints, master watercolour artists like David wouldn't be able to do as what they do as well as they do it as well. So, but if you want to come and see David's work and many of the other people that have been on the show, come to colourandyourlife.com.au, go to our Facebook page and like us as well on Colour and Your Life. And if there's artists out there that want to be part of what we're doing, as you can see, the calibre of the people that we've got on board these days is pretty amazing. And the Colour and Your Life message is spreading right across the world. But as always, until we meet again, remember, make sure you put some colour in your life, and we'll see you next time, guys.
And a big jump.
Bye now. And a big jump, yeah. See you guys.
Thank you.